me get Andre in here. Let me turn on my do not disturb so nothing will happen while we are doing the show. Hey,
Hello. I had to make sure my do not disturb was
right, I did
on.
too. After I got on. How's my camera? My
It's
headspace
good.
good? Do I need to bring it down?
Mm-hmm. Mm-mm.
Okay. It's weird because I can't see myself. But I'm putting my computer on right now so I can make sure that it looks good. How's your morning going?
It's going good. Well, I'm in the
Oh yeah.
afternoon. It's 3 o'clock where I am.
Yeah.
So
So how was your morning?
my morning was good. I woke up at a decent time this
Hmm.
morning. Um, I I was just going over the notes of what I want to discuss today on the
Hmm.
topics and all that. Um, but yeah, just an easy breezy morning.
Hmm.
Nothing crazy. Nothing.
What'd you happen?
I ran to the store. I ran to the store to get some stuff for the
Hmm.
week. But that's all I
Okay.
did. That's it.
Okay.
Well, we can wait a couple minutes for some folks to come
Okay.
in. I don't know if you have anybody coming in on your end.
I sent out some. Uh,
I saw your post
mhm.
about us going live in 30
Yeah.
minutes.
I'm gonna try
So,
to send to Glenn at least. Um, right now. Oh, hmm. I like that shirt. That's a nice color. Comfy.
thank you.
With
I'm trying to come through with the colors since I'm not, in collared shirts like you. I have to try to bring some color in. I'm
uh-huh,
just
uh-huh.
saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
My internet's acting different on my computer. Yesterday was my friend Pitt's birthday.
Oh,
He's
okay.
38. So we all in the same. Glenn about to be 38. I'm about to be 38. So we're all in the same
Oh, okay.
summer baby.
Y'all in the same age
Hmm.
grouping. Because I'm so young and youthful over here. So.
I get it. Okay, so it looks good. I guess we can get started, and the good thing about being here
Yeah.
is that people will be able to replay it live and yeah.
Yeah. I was just waiting a few minutes, but yeah, we can go ahead and get started because, like you're going to share it and everything
Hmm.
else. So good afternoon slash good morning. I guess you can say afternoon, morning.
Good day.
Welcome to our next episode. So I want to go over some of the topics that we're going to discuss. So some of the topics that we're going to discuss are going to be adjusting to this new normal that is going to be happening after post
Hmm.
pandemic. I know that a lot of you all have probably thought about what is life going to really be like after the
Hmm.
pandemic. I know that you all are wondering, like, well, like, how are your typical restaurants going to be operating and all that? And another topic I want to talk about is the colleges and universities as
Hmm.
well, because I've done a lot of research on colleges and universities and some of the plans they kind of have in place as well post pandemic. Now, we all don't really know when it's really going to end or when this whole COVID-19 thing will flatline and even when it's going to end. But I kind of wanted to share some things that I've done some research
Okay.
on. And then also, uh, Brandon and I are going to be discussing Pastor Reginald Sharp Jr. In reference to his closing service that he had with his congregation as far as shutting down the church. And there's some things that at first I was kind of like, what is he talking about? But after getting clarification, it's for a very good reason, and Brandon's going to elaborate on that. Because I think it's gonna, and also just let you all know, please provide input during this chat. Your insight on what I'm going to be speaking about with the colleges and universities and with the restaurants opening up, adjusting to this new normal, and also Brandon's discussion on Pastor Sharp, because he's going to give you a little bit more detail as to what his message was and what it really was trying to relay to the American people. So we'll go ahead and get started on the topic of the restaurants. I want to talk about the restaurants first. So if you all are not familiar with the podcast Planet Money, it's a podcast that I listen to quite a bit, and it really delved into the restaurant business. And please, like I said, if there's any research that you all have done in reference to restaurants opening up post-pandemic, or what business owners are doing when it comes to the safety of the customers coming in, and even the safety of the staff working there, please provide that, because what I wanted to do this week is kind of talk about the possible changes that are happening. And what I've also saw on this podcast is that other countries are already implementing these changes, like New Zealand, Australia, all these different countries have started doing it. And I feel, honestly, before I even go into what I've found, I feel like us in the United States, we're so behind. We're so behind the power curve on, as a country, on adjusting to this new thing that has happened. We're just so behind. And it also, and what I mean by that is, not everybody is physical distancing. Like I said in the first episode, I don't want to say social distancing, but there's not a lot of good physical distancing that we're doing. And there has been news articles and reports saying that there could be a second or third wave. And these are from the doctors and scientists that I've read on. So with me seeing other countries doing this, I just want to put this out there with you all. And like I said, if y'all have done any research on the what all these other countries have been doing post-pandemic, please provide that information. But I'm going to share what I have found. So with the restaurants in particular, there have been restaurants in these other countries that have gone to the lengths of having menus be provided through the phone. So like if you go to a restaurant, instead of having the actual paper menu, like where you could flip pages, they've been coming out with like menus that will, and they also go with what's available that day. So as we all know, technology has risen a whole lot. And I feel now that with technology being so innovative, I see that these restaurants in these other countries have developed, and I'm hoping the United States can get on board, because of course that's where all of us are, that they have created menus for what's available that day. So instead of touching any object that's in the restaurant, you can use your own device and look through what's available and then provide that order. Another thing that I've seen is and I'm hoping once again the United States implements this, that as soon as you walk into a restaurant, there's going to be a table that has hand sanitizer, moist wipes. Now, and I also want y'all to provide your perspective on how you feel about this. I've also saw that they're going to be providing a contact tracing app. I don't know if y'all have heard of the contact tracing app. I have my reservations about it personally with the contact tracing app. But what it provides is it provides your national ID number, and it tracks who you've been around. So let's say me and Brandon go to P.F. Chang's or Cheesecake Factory. We go inside there. There's a big table that has hand sanitizer, tissues, and and then basically everyone has a contact tracing app, and it just tracks your where you've been. So if anybody contracts the
Mm-hmm.
virus, this app will let you know there has been a person you've been around that tested positive, and then that kind of um, lets you know, hey, I need to get tested because someone that you were around contracted the virus.
Some countries are already doing that. I
Then,
think that's already established in China, and I can't remember where else, but they were already using the apps and
yeah,
and it sends your phone a notification that you've been around somebody and then you need to self quarantine. And the information that I've heard regarding the contact tracing is that people are worried about government overreach or too much access to your personal information. And then, I think I don't. It's happened in Canada. I've seen a video in Canada where the police went and removed someone from their home, some elderly people, just to take them to the hospital. And so, like these kind of things make people around the world be more like conscious of essentially they're saying, they frame it like giving up my freedoms of or privacy. Because let's say and I think they don't necessarily need the dangerous or the pushback is that people don't really have to give up this information. That most of the apps on our cell phones. So this brings us back to a Snowden era. Most of the stuff are apps on our cell phones, like on Android, I have an Android. My phone will say, hey, this app, do you want it to have your location at all times? Or do you just when you're using the app? So apps and phones have started to be more secure, so to speak. But, have you noticed a few years ago, we could take the batteries out of our phones? We can no longer take the batteries out of our phones. So even if it's powered off, your phone can still be hacked. And I think it's just a thing of, you know, having the peace of God, because they have access to
yes,
the information. But people, the main thing that I've heard people be afraid of is the fact, okay, let's say we've been around somebody. Let's say it's 6 months from now, and we've been around somebody, and there was another wave, and that wave is on a downward slope. Let's say it's after fall, almost to the new year. So we get a notification on our phone. But um, what happens then to the people that get the notification? So it's not just us, but let's say there's three other people that we know or that we don't know. And so then we go out. Is the government now tracking us to see if we're staying quarantined? That's a major concern for people right now. And in the establishing of um, contact tracing, like how does that play out?
yeah, I think the depths of this contact tracing is what concerns people. Like I just said earlier, I had my reservations about contact tracing, and then it's kind of one of those things where it's like it should be up to the individual if they want to have a trace on
Mhm.
them or if they
Mhm.
don't, because HIPAA can be involved.
Yes,
All those different
yes.
things uh, can cause someone to have their
Mhm.
reservations. Or there's people that say, hey, I don't care, because they may be looking at out for that other person to say, well, if I have it, I definitely would want to let somebody know. Or the fact that I had the app on and I contracted it, yes, it's just in order to save more
Yes.
people, then yeah,
Mhm.
I don't mind. So there's two versions, there's two different kinds of people out there. The folks that are private and like, I don't want my
Right.
business out there like
Mhm.
that. And then there's some that say, well, no, let me go ahead and and have that
Yeah.
app on, because if I contract it, I want I don't want anybody else to be able to contract the virus, or they can be
Mhm.
tested to show that they had the
Right.
virus. Um, so also guns for temperatures are going to have been implemented too, and like you said, China has already done this. I'm just saying that I'm hoping that the United States can get
Mhm.
on board. And please, if you have any um, a perspective on this, please provide
Yeah.
that, because I have
Shout
not
out
seen
to
any.
Brandon Davis, Matt Justice, and Anthony Creme. It says they're watching. I don't know if they're still in the room, but it showed up that they were here.
Oh, okay. I don't have nobody on my end coming in. But so yeah, guns for temperatures to show, and also in addition to the gun for
Mhm.
temperatures, I've also seen in places like China and New Zealand, Australia, There's going to be that they're implementing like groups of 3 to 4 at a time, only being with people that are in your family. So, and people that you live with. So like me and you wouldn't be able to go to a restaurant because we don't live
Right.
together
Mm-hmm.
physically. So they don't encourage
Right.
that. And also every other table being
Mm-hmm.
empty. So like we get a table and then nobody's at the next table, so that's another
Mm-hmm.
way that, and then 10 at a time. So I want to speak a little bit about the the every table being empty. In addition to that, I've also read that there have been places that are trying to expand and make it a bigger restaurant, because being that there is going to be physical distancing, which you already know I like to use
Right.
that term, being that physical distancing is there, and to expand and make the building bigger or make more space because of physical
Mm-hmm.
distancing. So if there are maybe more than 10 people in the restaurant, then it's spread out enough to where people are 6 to 10 feet
Mm-hmm.
apart. That's kind of what gauges that in a sense. So I thought that that was good as well.
Yes.
Um, and also, Brandon, let me know how you feel about, because I wrote this down. Do you feel that we, as the United States,
Mm-hmm.
we can't speak for other countries because we're not there, but as the United States, once we get to this new normal and all the things that we just
Mm-hmm.
discussed, do you think that people are going to be acting out, or do you think that we're going to, for the majority, comply with the possibility of those changes happening that we just discussed?
I think it could be a mixture of both, kind of like you talked about it. Like, these things are presented in a positive manner. I do think they could help quell the virus, but I think in general there's a distrust of government these days. I think there's an overload of information, and I think it's like this might. What if this is actually a good plan? But um, it's kind of like patching a roof, and we've patched it, let's say 5 times. It comes to a point where we should replace it, and that would be more beneficial. It may not be cost effective at first, but it would be better. So I think maybe before contact tracing, um, it would. I think the public would be more comfortable if we were doing enough testing. It's kind of like how
Yes.
come if I have some symptoms and I want to go get a test, why can't I go get a test at least once? You know, why has everyone not been tested? And then there's like the difference between the World Health Organization, the CDC information, the White House. You know, everyone.
The FDA,
Yes, and
everything.
everyone's not really on the same page. And then corporations and businesses are also not on the same page. We've seen a number of Americans in restaurants in
Mm-hmm.
different places, or go not restaurants, sorry, grocery stores, and people being kicked out of Costco, or I forget another grocery store starts with a G, like Gellies or something, where.
Hey, Stephanie girl, I see you. Just want to say
Hey,
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 Stephanie.
Stephanie. And so, like, we see people not wanting to comply with even the mask to go into the grocery store. So I think, and one lady, she proceeded to like have a breakdown because like she wasn't able to touch, you know, her friends, or wasn't able to see people's faces because she had to wear a mask. And I think, and then I saw another video where there was a gentleman who had some type of medical condition, and so he didn't want to wear a mask, and it was some type of anxiety. And so I just think there's a lot of information that's going around, and if I was to provide a solution, right, I think the best thing before anybody else tells us what we should do, we should understand that like our household, we're in charge of our household. So that means like whatever we can do to protect our household, we should do it. Like some people should, in my opinion, Americans, we should get over our own inconveniences. You know, like, I mean, there's some people who have to wear a mask because they have to go to work. I don't think it's too much to ask to put on a mask. And I think that I would hope that media and different people who have a voice would say things in a more unified way. Like, because Dr.
Yeah.
Fauci saying at no point in time should everybody be wearing a mask. Then it comes out, everybody should be wearing a mask. Then it comes out, oh, the mask's not protecting you. Then it comes out, the mask does protect you. And so just like having a constant stream of information without absolutes and admitting, hey, as this goes on, there are going to be some changes. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah, the narrative is
So
inconsistent. The
So
narratives are inconsistent.
if I have some narratives that are inconsistent, and every time you talk to me, my narratives are inconsistent, what are you gonna feel about what I'm saying?
I'm not gonna trust it.
See, and that's my point. And I've heard a lot of conversations, and it sound like they're here.
Your
I know
cat having a
he probably
conversation.
want to come in and have a conversation. Hold, please.
Okay. That cat be wanting to come in and just chime
Yeah, it's
in.
that way.
So
He's happy now. Um, so I think that that does not feed. It doesn't look good. The optics of it do not look good for no one to be on the same page and to be in the leadership position, you know, um, to be in a leadership position and to not have that information or to be resolute or confident, um, in situations when you're a leader, people are looking for you to be confident, knowledgeable, and that confidence makes them then have confidence in you and what you're saying. But I don't think people as a whole, the public is definitely split, and they're split because of the stories keep changing.
right. And I mean, it's one of those things where
What's up,
it's like
Gino?
I think it's one of those things where what the way I'm looking at it is, in order for in order for everyone to kind of be on the same sheet of music, that I just feel that we all should work
Right.
together,
Yeah.
regardless, as Americans, and say,
Hmm.
okay, look, and and the United States not to have pride in itself because we're supposed to be the best of the
Hmm.
best. But look at what these other countries are doing. Look at the countries that have already flattened the
Yeah.
curve. Look at what they're doing, and not be so prideful. And
Hey,
you know,
Regina.
like I just feel that's what I'm. Rashima. Oh, okay. Oh, I
Yeah.
met her, and her husband. Well, I knew her husband. I worked with him, but I met her, so it was good seeing her. But yeah, I just feel that there should be a united front that, especially with the United States, and I'm speaking as a
Hmm.
whole, the United
Hmm.
States coming together and looking at what these other countries are doing to flatten the curve. I think, and to actually just make it go
Hmm.
away. But I feel that as Americans, we tend to defy what we're told. Yes, there's confusion from the doctors because the doctors are, like I said, being inconsistent with their narrative of this virus, and that's kind of
Right.
what has caused people to be like, "Well, I'm gonna do what I want to do
Right.
anyway," because like I've seen people at the beach, Florida, pretty much open back up. I see Everett on. Hey, Everett. I said Everett, not Mr. Richardson. He's on. But yeah, that's what I think that if we come together as united front with that, that could really change.
Hmm.
So let me go into the colleges and universities. So we talked about the restaurants. So with my research on colleges, and I'm talking about one particular college in particular, Boston University. Um, Online classes at Boston University, and I'm talking about the pricing, like how a lot of these students or kids that graduate from college to come into the
Hmm.
campus. I want to give you all the differences in price. So online classes are $24,000 per
Okay.
semester, and on campus it's
Mm.
$56,000 per semester. So when you go on the campus, it costs way more than online, and that's how most
Right.
colleges are. But I'm just giving you Boston University in
Okay.
particular. And something to adjust to with the new normal, just some stuff that I've read. Parents may have to adjust to having their children start online courses more
Mm.
often, being that we're in this pandemic and we don't really know how long this is really going to
Right.
last. And basically, I hate to say it, but I know that a lot of parents were happy to have their kids graduate high school and be going to a dorm to get
Hmm.
away, but I'm just saying there's a possibility that your child that just
Right.
graduated may be still living with
Right.
you, but going to school
Mm-hmm.
online. So, and mind you, I there's a silver lining in that, is because when your kids do graduate high school and start college, and if they so happen to go
Mm-hmm.
online, that you know that they're protected and they're safe because they are living with you still. But I know a lot of parents personally. I know a lot of parents is like, I can't wait for my child to
Right.
go. I need to be an empty
Mm-hmm.
nester and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So there's two ways to look
Mm-hmm.
at that. Also, I've also read that there may be a hiring of more professors to teach online. So a lot of the professors that were teaching on
Okay.
campus were also teaching online. But being that there may be a bigger influx of folks going online, there may need to be more
Mm.
professors, because not all professors that teach on campuses teach
Yeah.
online. So that may be happening. And I also put it in contact tracing as well, because once there's a gradual, and I also feel that there should be a gradual reopening as time goes
Mm-hmm.
by with um, the campus opening back up. What I also found out with Boston University in particular, and they're trying to implement this possibly in the fall, they're going to start doing a gradual process where people will start going back to the campus. And I want to get your take
Okay.
on this too, Brandon, because you made a face.
The
So,
cats are over here just having a party.
oh, the
Yeah.
cat's by you? Oh, okay. So what I also saw with Boston is that the first wave will be the medical students. It'll be the medical students um, that are in their upper year in med
Mm-hmm.
school, um, and basically going to clinics and stuff. And then the second wave will be the first year students that are medical students, that'll be going to the labs. So
Mm-hmm.
like there's a slow, gradual, and then everyone else will go after that. So like I know people that's trying to get their art degree, like painting or stuff like that. All those folks will go after once they start seeing how those COVID-19 cases are going, if there's a flat line. So I actually like what Boston University is doing. I think that I don't think everybody should just go back at one time. I see Lee Harrison, Son Harrison, he was at EOA school
Okay.
with us. Um, so hey, Lee Harrison, how are
Hey, Joe
you?
Crawford and John
But
Erickson
yeah.
and Alex is back.
Oh, I see Alex. Oh, you was cleaning. It's all good. Clean up that house, Alex. But yeah, so that I see the gradual wave going
Mm-hmm.
on. And then we may have to also get used to virtual commencement ceremonies. I mean, you saw that former President Obama gave a commencement speech to a
Yeah.
university. So yeah, what is your take on what Boston University is doing? Because I kind of like where there's a gradual
Mm-hmm.
process to kind of evaluate how things
Right.
are going. And starting with medical students, I think it was also pretty
Mm-hmm.
good too. And once again, you all, please feel free to bring your thoughts and comments. Brandon just actually
Yeah.
said that. But yeah, feel free to, okay, on the same wavelength, because I was just thinking that. Please provide your comments of what you think with all what we were
Mhm.
discussing. So go ahead, Brandon. What do
I
you
think
think?
it's a perfect opportunity to move education forward because I'm a person, I feel like I'm a lifelong learner, but I don't really um, like the whole lecture kind of thing. I think we have so much access to more information and we should utilize technology. And this is sort of forcing us to evolve in areas where some education has evolved, some countries have evolved in their even public education. A lot of private schools have went to utilizing technology and bringing in iPads and different programs. Um, for example, I'm taking a biology class that's called Living Beyond or something like that. It's Bio 100, and how it teaches you is it's almost like it looks like a PowerPoint, but it's more like a software program, and it gives you a chance to read the information and then lets you input it, and that's how they basically give you your grade. There's no test, there's no quizzes, nothing like that, and so these methods of education are not just a memorize and regurgitate, but it's like you get familiar with the information, then you utilize it, and I think the idea behind it is once you teach that way and you're a self learner, then you'll retain the information better and not just take a brain dump after you pass the test. Instead of studying to pass the test, you actually are educated on whatever you're pursuing. So I think that these kind of things, like for the future, will be better, and it's forcing an old system that hasn't really been updated. For example, another thing like that was it the ACTs and SATs? I heard about that too. There was like some type of computer
Mm-hmm.
glitch. Like these tests, we talk about institutional racism a lot on our lives and that kind of thing, and we are about equal opportunity. And I think when we look at SATs and SATs, like, are they really valid now? And some of the standardized tests,
I don't think
the
so. I
school's
don't
gonna
think
take
so.
your
And I mean,
money.
who am I
The
to
school's
talk?
gonna take your money anyway, regardless, right?
Right. And I want to read what Everett said because he made a really, really good
Hmm.
point. He put, as much as what you are saying makes all the sense in the world, I'm afraid that it will come down to money. The schools will see how their cash flows look and make a determination on how to bring students back to campus. So I do see what you're saying with that, Everett, because based on the research that I've done with just Boston University itself, being that online courses are $24,000 for a
Mm,
semester, and that on campus is 56,000.
right.
What my question to them, and Everett, please feel free to answer this from your perspective. My question is, or my thought process is, I think that there could be like a balance though. If you think about, if the on campus is shut down, it's $56,000, but then you have a higher influx of online classes that are
Mm,
24. I feel like there may be a somewhat of a balance. I mean, I'm not good at math. Don't quote me on it. I'm just saying that there could be a balance to where all of those students that were intending
mm,
on going on campus would just end up just going online, and then their cash flow wouldn't be that much
right.
off. Now, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Everett. I see Najeli joined. Hey,
Hey, Jelly.
Najeli.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, like I feel that based upon the online, that's kind of why I brought up earlier that there may need to be more
mm,
hiring of college professors teaching
mhm,
online, because the amount of students that go online, I feel, will automatically go up, if that makes sense.
right.
So there could be a balance there with the pricing for campus, which the campus ain't open right now, and Boston University is planning on opening back up in the
Hmm.
fall. So, which is I think the September October
Mm.
timeframe. So I mean, any input would definitely help. But yeah, I definitely feel that the online version, if it increases, it could
It
balance
could.
out.
I agree with you, and I think that education, since Brother Everett brought up money, I think that money is definitely going to be a factor, and I think it's also going to be a factor more so of the consumer, of the person pursuing the education. People will probably look out cheaper schools now. If everybody's going online, you know, somebody, it was either a meme or somebody made a joke about the University of Phoenix, like y'all used to make fun of the University of Phoenix online, but now everybody's going to school online. Like, and so I think it's just forcing the education system to not be so old, but to really utilize that innovation and creativeness. And I think most people have cell phones now. Most people have computers. And when I signed up for class, something in the syllabus said you can't use your cell phone, to take the course and all that. Essentially, what they're saying. So that means in order for them to have to put that in the syllabus, what does that mean? That people have been using their cell phones to even do college classes, and our cell phones are computers now. So you know,
Hmm.
um, people are using their cell phone to take college classes. That's something. So I mean,
I mean that. I'm
mhm,
with that, and I see
mhm,
that, and I don't know. Like I feel that if there is a balance, well, the online numbers going up, that it could balance out. I mean, but to Everett's point as well, the colleges are hungry for are hungry for those folks to go back to the campus because that's where the money's at. And by the way, I wanted to correct myself because I just thought about it. It's not 24,000 per semester. I think it's 24,000 average for the degree you're going for. So that was my fault. I said semester, like each class is $24,000. No, I'm speaking about the whole degree program. But yeah, so I know, my bad. I thought about it. I was like, not a semester. Basically, an average for the degree you're going for is cheaper online than it is for. But yeah, I see. Ever said something else. You would have to more than double the amount of people taking online classes. Yep. With the hiring of more professors means that their expenses would also increase. It's a slippery slope on how the schools value on education. Yeah, that's true too. But to add to your statement, Everett, the professors online don't get paid as much as the college professors at the campus too. So you have to factor in how much the professors online get. Because I have friends that are professors online and they don't get paid nearly as much as the ones that are physically on the campus. So that could be a factor as well. I see my high school friend is on. Friend Darius. I said your whole name. I'm sorry. He goes by friend on Facebook. My bad. And I see my friend Noah is on. So hey, you too. But yeah, I definitely hope that over time that once again a united front because these other countries are seemingly doing pretty well with adjusting to this new normal because this pandemic, I don't really know how long we're going to be in it. I don't know if it's going to be another year and a half, maybe 2022 is when we will kind of be back to a normal space. I don't know. Like for me, I'm even scared to go to a restaurant. The restaurants in Kentucky, I'm just speaking of Kentucky. The restaurants are going to be opening back up June 8th, and that's in like 2 weeks, I think. And I don't know if I want to go up in there. I mean, I've gotten so used to ordering in when I do eat out, doing the curbside pickup, that I'm like, I don't even know if I want to go to a physical restaurant because then I'm thinking about, okay, I put on my mask to get out my car to go in the restaurant, then am I physical distancing from like when I walk in, and then is there people sitting in the very front? Do I have to pass by somebody that's like, I don't know. Are the waiters gonna? I mean, of course, the waiters and waitresses and cooks are gonna be wearing masks, but I don't know. It's like I'm all in my head when it comes to like going back to a restaurant just because I love eating there. Like if they do curbside pickup, I'm gonna go to Cheddar's, Chili's, and all that, and get my curbside pickup, honey, and be right on at the house eating my food because I'm just not sure about my own safety. Going to a restaurant right now, but Kentucky is saying June 8th for us. I see Nando's in. That's your classmate, Nando.
Yeah, I think these are a lot of things to think about, and that kind of ties into what I said earlier, right? Like you are the shepherd of your own household. Like no matter who tells you what you should do, like there may be some extra precautionary measures that you may feel that you should take. You know, like one thing that we haven't talked about that I don't see much being talked about, like nobody's really talking about boosting your immune system. You know what I'm saying?
I like it. Oh, Nando said, plus people that don't care if they're sick and still go out, or kids with runny nose and the parents don't care. And see, those are the things that I'm talking about. Like I'm fearful of going out because I feel like there's a lot of irresponsible Americans out there that will just be like, I may be symptomatic, but I mean, I feel okay today, so I'm still gonna go. And you get tested, and you tested positive for the virus. So there's a lot of carelessness in the world too with some Americans, and I'm just nervous about going to a restaurant right as soon as y'all start opening back up. Like I kind of want to wait.
There's people on video right now. You can go on YouTube and like there's people coughing on people. Like there's people
on purpose
and getting irate and yelling at another citizen because they did something they didn't like, or asking them to wear a mask, and then they just go to coughing. And so I think that that's what I say, you are the shepherd of your own household. It is up to you to make the decisions that, for yourself and for other people. Kind of like when you drive, right? Maybe you can, drive 60, 70 miles an hour and be good. But like some people can't see at night. So you probably need to drive a little bit slower for your sake and everyone else around you, right? When we drive, like our cars have all these safety mechanisms that notify you if somebody's in your left lane or in your right lane, right? They got blind spot monitors, they got cameras in it. So who is that really for? You might think I'm a safe driver and I don't need all this, but it's actually for to warn you about other people as well. Because if somebody starts coming into your lane, hey, the car's gonna notify you. So I think that's important
Yes.
too.
Oh, I see Gino said this has impacted so much I enjoy. Oh, I see Tiffany, Miss Englehart's on live right now. Hey, hey Tiffany, not Miss Englehart, because they know I call her Miss Englehart at
Okay.
Diomi. Hey Tiffany. I see Everett said, remember, it goes back to what you said earlier about Americans being defiant. In other countries, not all, but some, they have no choice but to follow the guidance.
Okay.
Americans are more worried about First Amendment rights. All I would like to say that it should be more about collective rights and not individual rights. But then my patriotism gets questioned.
Mm.
Ooh, come on now. Okay, Nando said mic drop
Right?
right there.
Yeah.
Only high class folk got cars like that. This has impacted so much. I enjoyed going to the movies and not. Yeah, I
Mm.
mean, it being defiant, and I like that statement. Everett, that was
Yeah.
powerful there. That was a powerful statement. So I want us to segue into the other topic. Being that Everett said that, Everett, you helped with our
Thank you,
segue, which goes to thank you, Everett, for helping us with our
Eddie.
segue. So our segue is discussing Pastor Reginald Sharp
Mhm.
Jr. He is a pastor at Fellowship
Mhm.
Chicago, and I want Brandon to share with you all his message, his last message that he gave in the congregation.
Okay, so when I first saw the video, I thought it was funny um, because he put a little extra on it. And if you ever been to a Baptist,
Like
yeah,
you.
like me sometimes, yeah. So like if you ever been to a Baptist church, Baptists are a little expressive and sometimes entertaining, but I think that's just probably any church. Most pastors have a little funny bone, or sometimes they tell funny jokes, and so he basically it seemed like for those who know what shade is that he was throwing a lot of shade out there, and it went viral. And I didn't realize that he was the same person that went viral with Kev on stage before, when he was singing, talking about only God can do it, and he did the the pistol plays. But I want to read some of the quotes that he was saying because I think it's pretty powerful statement, and this ties into everything we've talked about so far. All of the precautionary measures, like this ties into it, and even churches are not on the same page. So this is somebody, Pastor Reginald is like, don't call me, we're not opening, don't DM me, don't ask me, we're not opening the church. Like he was like, the church is not closed because it's us. We'll still be here doing ministry. But he was like, God himself is going to have to wake me up, slap me 3 times, pour water on my face. And he just kept
Boom.
going. It was very animated and expressive, and it was pretty funny. But then,
I'm killing every with my facial expressions. But he knows me though. I'm
you
extra
see,
too. So
so WTTW News, I'm not sure where they are, but oh, that's in Chicago. Okay. So he made the news, and one of his quotes was, "I have decided that it's best for us to wait because our jobs as shepherds is not just to feed the people, but also to fight off the wolves." What that makes me think about is living by a code of do no harm. So if we're sick, stay home. If you have symptoms, stay home. And I think I would hope most people know their body to know if it's just allergies because the allergy season is here. Is it just allergies?
yeah, non-verbs. Yes, Nando, non-verbs. I see you.
Is it
Mm-hmm.
allergies or is it something more? This is what he said. He said, "We're not coming back into church until the Lord, the righteous judge, wakes me up out of my sleep and says it's time to come back to the building." Sharp says in the video, "Until the Lord slaps me 3 times, pours water from heaven on my face, and warms my feet with the fire of the Holy Ghost." So he said, yeah, I mean, those are his exact words, and it was
Yeah.
funny. But he made his point, and I think sometimes mixing a little honey with a little vinegar makes everything taste better, more palatable. So I think he added,
Boom.
the comedy and that piece in it just to let people know how serious he was. Oh, and also he went on to say, we're not opening anything up until they open up their businesses. He's like, we're not opening up until the NBA, opens up, and that kind of thing. And he said, which they I'm talking about when I say their businesses. So I don't know what he's exactly
Boom.
saying,
Boop.
but he put it out there for the people who do know. So
And what are y'all's take on that, you all that's watching? Because I even though it was very animated and it was extra, but it was a powerful message. Because at first, I'll just give you my take. At first, I was like, is he shutting down the church service? Because it seemed like he was very impactful to the congregation. So I was like, don't shut down your
yeah,
church. I need you to still be there for your people. But I further realized that he's not talking about the church being closed. He's saying
the
the
building.
building is closed, meaning that we're not coming to this building to have service. So he is still having online church where he is talking to the people virtually.
Mhm.
So at first when I was like, don't DM me, don't call me, don't email me, I'm thinking like, well, dang, so are you just shutting yourself out to the
Yeah.
people? Like, what are you doing right now? You are supposed to be a pastor. And my first impression was like, wait a minute. So if I was going to your church, I would feel like I'm
Mhm.
alone. But then no, he was not meaning that. He was basically letting us know that you will not be able to come into this
Right.
building. This building is not
Mhm.
available to you. And do not try to get me to unlock it for you. Don't come over here to the church because ain't nobody
Right.
gonna be here.
Yep.
So that's what I took from it, and it was very
Mhm.
comedic. But like my first impression was that he was just canceling everybody. Everybody canceling. Don't hit me up until the pandemic over. Then I'll be available. But that's not what he
Mhm.
meant. He was basically saying church is not a building. It was a message he said about church not being a
Right.
building, but the church being the
Yes.
people. Something to
And we'll
that
still
effect.
we'll still be here,
Um,
but not in that sense. That he wasn't opening up the church to bring people back in. And so he was basically saying we're going to use the technology for now until God says otherwise.
Technology.
And that ties into what I talked about last week. Why, the church who believes in one God, right? The church believes in prophets and prophecy. The Bible is a book of prophecy. So if the church believes in these things, then why are they waiting on governors to decide for them what they can and can't do? Instead of going to God, because
And Tiffany said you can worship
yeah,
anywhere. See, we in that powerful
yes,
statement.
and we
And it's always about money. Nando said it's always
yes,
about
okay.
money.
So let's talk about that. I have a question. What do you think about these churches who are having these pull-up services? Like, why? Like, what's the point of having people come to the parking lot to have church?
Ooh, that's a good question. I didn't know about no pull up church
Yeah,
now.
people are having to pull up and
Once
pray.
again, I think with Nando's saying it's about money, it is because if you still have people attending the church or like you said, the parking lot, they're still physically there. You're still able to gather the offering and the
Yeah.
tithes and offerings. You're still able to do those things.
Hmm.
So there is a money game in those kind of churches. There's good and there's more bad than good in my
Hmm.
opinion. With that because the good part of it is, I mean, we are physical somewhat distancing because we're not being in a dense environment. We're still staying in our cars. Like, is there a way, kind of like those drive-in movie
Yeah.
theaters that I think we discussed? Did we discuss the drive-in movie theaters where, or I may have saw it somewhere where the drive-in movie theaters may be
Yeah.
coming back because you instead of going to an actual movie theater where you're sitting next to a
Hmm.
person, you can just go into the thing and then go turn into a AM radio station and then just listen to the movie that's on the screen and all the cars are parked. You can have your own intimate moment with your
Right.
family instead of in a
Yep.
drive-in. So I think the pro is that, but then the negative is
Hmm.
why though? Like, it's not necessary because at the end of the day, there's still going to be people passing offering plates in the
Right.
parking lot instead of in the church, which Nando said it's about money. So that's a very valid statement there,
Hmm.
Nando. Oh, and then Gino Phillips says, in the last days you will need to know him from your heart.
Mm.
They will be unable to have church hide his word in your heart. To have church hide his word
Yeah.
in your heart.
He's basically saying there's coming a time where people won't be able to have church as we know it, and that the word needs to be hid in your heart. Yes, and
In
that's the
your
real
heart.
persecution that's coming. Real persecution that the Bible does speak of over and over again.
Yeah. And I mean, like Tiffany said earlier, you can worship anywhere. It doesn't have to be in a church building. And I'm glad that Pastor Sharp emphasized on it. I'm glad that he was
Right.
animated about it because he did go
Yes.
viral. And it was more so because of Kev on Stage, which most of y'all know he's a Black
Mhm.
comedian that is just hilarious. But he kind of made it help the video go viral because Pastor Sharp was like, no, we are not going to be having church in this building. Like, I'm caring more about the safety of all of us as Americans. I see my friend Matthew is on. Hey, Matthew. Perry says, greetings to both of you from Greenville, North Carolina, Pastor Perry Smith. Hello, Pastor
Hello,
Perry
Pastor.
Smith. You know Pastor Perry Smith. I don't know Pastor Perry Smith, but
Mhm.
hello. But yeah, I think that, I think the drive-in church part is weird
Yeah.
to me. I don't understand why that is, but like Nando said earlier, it's
Yeah,
about money.
and I
I
think,
think
I
money
don't want to,
plays a
I don't
factor.
want to condemn the entire thing, but I guess, what the decisions that, what I want to admonish people to do, the decisions that we make now, we have to be much more cognizant of what we're doing. And if, I'm not saying you got to stay wrapped up in your house all day either. I think people should get out. You probably should go to the
Mm-mm.
park. You should try to live your life. I don't want to use the word normal, but you should try to live your life like you should, like you want to, at the same
Yeah,
time adding in these protective measures. I mean, the same way we put our seatbelts when we get in the car, right? You don't have to. It's your choice, but you should wear your seatbelt. It saves lives. So when it comes to physical distancing, when it comes to these types of things, I do think, it's a good idea to limit your time um, outside of your house, probably, and but at the same time, I think being in nature is definitely healthy. I recommend it, especially for people who may be struggling from mental health issues or being depressed or whatever from not living as they normally live.
yeah. And do you think maybe it's because a lot of Americans feel it's too soon to do that? Maybe like the ideas, like the whole drive-in, having church through a drive-in. I feel like those are great ideas, but do we think that maybe it's too soon to implement that because of the COVID-19 not really being as monitored well? Like there's not enough testing going on. There's not enough. So
Yeah.
like I feel like these ideas are really, really good, but like, is it too soon to implement the idea? I mean, that's just
Mhm.
something I'm thinking about because like a drive-in having church, I don't think it's
Right,
terrible either. I don't think it's a
right.
terrible idea, but is it too
Gotcha.
soon? I see Matthew saying, I'm glad you're spreading this message. It's about safety and spreading God's word. Absolutely, Matthew. Oh, and Matthew, I'm putting his business out there. He was a chaplain assistant in the
Okay.
Army. Um, so, he know the word of the
Amen.
Lord. So, I see Everett says there could be a positive in it for those people on a fixed income that cannot afford internet,
Mm.
to still get the word in a sort of normal way.
Yeah.
That's good too. Not saying I agree to it, but it could be an option. So yeah, and that kind of went into what I said
Mhm.
earlier about if there's the aspect of is it. I see Christina Bromley's on. That's my friend Ian's wife. That's on. I there I just I guess it goes back to what I said earlier about the fact of it being great, but too soon to is it too soon to do it, or is it like can we wait a little while
Right.
longer? Because I do like the idea of doing the whole drive up and maybe hearing on a loudspeaker or however, kind of like I said, the drive-in movie theater where you used to go to a certain AM and FM radio station and then hear, I think it's AM radio, and then you hear the word being preached, and then there's still money being going towards that building. They're just not physically in the building. So it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky thing. I want to read what Pastor Perry said. He says, I have 2 churches in North Carolina and an independent fellowship. We not having church too. To me, the president just trying to kill us, black Americans. I've been following him. He say one thing but meant another. But we must be wise like Pastor Sharp was. Okay. Matthew says something really special I have seen lately is a drive-through prayers at church is the old sessions for people to drive through and have prayer over them. So there are other options to practice social distancing. I say physical distancing, Matthew. So I'm just putting that out there. I use physical distancing because and I'm gonna explain why in a moment. And I enjoy that everyone is willing to come together and be creative. And Pastor Perry said, I'm very into politics, as we realized, or as I realized.
And I am too.
So Matthew, the reason why, and Brandon is too, and I'm not. So I'm not. But I want to talk about what Matthew said in reference to social distancing. So I'm not a fan of the word social distancing. The reason why I say that is because psychologically, I feel that using the word social distancing can cause people to get into this depression state or to feel like they're alone, so they can't be social with one another. Because what we're doing right now is we're being social with each other right now. We are having a social conversation right now. So I use the word physical distancing because we do have to be physically 6 feet apart to be safe and try to prevent one another from getting COVID-19. So I'm trying to go into using the term physical distancing instead of social distancing. I never liked it when I first heard it. I was like, why are we saying social distancing? Because if I get on FaceTime with Brandon or if I get on video chat with Brandon, I'm not social distancing. I am looking at Brandon right now on Facebook Live and we are being social. So I just wanted to put emphasis on words because words have power. They really do.
And I agree with that. I think social distancing does have a negative connotation that you're alone, you know.
And I'm speaking more for myself too because I live alone. I don't have a wife, a kid, a husband, a pet. I don't even have a cat. I don't have a dog. I don't have a fish. I don't have anything. It is just Andre Brooks here by himself. So I just want to emphasize physical distancing. So I don't say social distancing ever. Pastor Smith said, yes, we need to wait a little. The government is not open, but he wants to open the church. He just looking at votes, but he not getting my vote like he didn't get my vote last time. That's coming from Pastor Smith. But yeah, so yeah, physical distancing, like I said earlier, is what I want to practice. And like Pastor Smith said, waiting a little bit. I think waiting a little bit and doing like the whole gradual reopening of things is what will be effective. And that balance between, because I also saw on The View, the co-hosts were talking about balancing everything out. So like having those economic experts talk to the political, the doctors, and them coming together with a way to balance everything out, so where it's not like one has more weight than the other. So as long as that's happening, then I think we can be at a better place.
I agree. Can we go back to something too? Like I started to touch on it, but I wanted to touch on it a little bit more. And this will segue into the new normal. I think that we don't hear too much about healthy habits or, for example, a lot of the people who have experienced mortality from COVID-19, people who've lost their life, vitamin D, they were vitamin D deficient. A lot of Black Americans are vitamin D deficient. There's things that we can do to increase our immune system, have more fruits and vegetables and have more oranges throughout the day. That's something that I've been doing. And I take vitamin D and I take multivitamins. And shout out to labdoor.com because they actually study. Most supplements are not FDA regulated. which I'm not saying is a good or a bad thing, but labdoor.com can, you can go on there and research basically what you're taking. So you know how the labels are not always accurate and they're not always 100%. So labdoor.com tests it for free, and you can go look at the reports of like different pre-workouts, different multivitamins. And I think the new normal is being conscious about the decisions you make, making healthy decisions, because healthy uh, you want healthy things to grow, right? It's kind of like planting in good soil. You want to plant in something that's going to give you a harvest. You know, you want to do healthy things like being outside to exercise, is a great thing. Being outside just to be trying to go to the mall and go
Mhm.
shopping, to some people they might think it's a great thing, but maybe just not right now, you know?
Just not right now. And I think that's kind of what I was trying to say earlier. Just maybe these ideas are really great for the future, but not in the near future. I think we're still dealing with a lot of COVID-19 cases, and then I Angie spoke about it before. There's asymptomatic
Mhm.
people walking around that don't even know they
Right.
got it. So there's just a lot of different things to look at when it comes
Hmm.
to that. But we have a few minutes left, so I want to go ahead and give the closing remarks. And if Brandon, you have anything, but what we discussed today was the restaurant businesses and what other countries are doing to enhance that and make and have a balance with a gradual opening of these businesses and what they're doing. Um, Having a table that has hand sanitizer, moist wipes, that contact tracing app. That was a very good discussion on how people think about the contact tracing app
Hmm.
being utilized. Because as Americans, most Americans are not going to want to be traced on no
Right.
app because they feel like all their personal information is just out there for the
Yeah.
people to just have, and HIPAA violations and all that. And then and then we also talked about the colleges and universities. Boston University in particular, I did my research on that, hiring more of those online professors to
Hmm.
teach, and having and maybe the balance, not really a balance, but the what can help colleges like that if they're not having campus courses, the online professors could there could be more online professors, but then at the same time we have to factor in that there's more money that the college needs to
Right.
pay them, but then we have to factor in that they are paid less than your on-campus professors. And then having that gradual thing where you bring in the medical students first to go to the clinics, and then you gradually bring in those first-year students to go into those labs on the campus. And then us getting used to virtual commencement ceremonies. Um, and then we also talked about Pastor Sharp at Fellowship Chicago about um, what his message really meant, even though he was extra
Right.
with it. What his what his message really was portraying, and what he is strictly doing for his
Right.
building. There's no one going to the building, but he's still having online services, which was clarified to
Hmm.
me. So I think that was a really good segue going
Yeah.
from the new normal that we're going to be experiencing with restaurants, bars, and clubs going to the colleges and
Right.
universities. So I'm just hoping that we get to a place where we can make a united front. Just kind of back to what me and Brandon have talked about offline, a united front, everybody coming
Yeah.
together as Americans, putting race aside, putting your political differences aside, and just coming together to make this country
Hmm.
better. Um, so Pastor Smith says, y'all pray for me. I'm running for mayor 2021. Then 2024, I'm thinking about running for president. Okay.
Amen. Yeah.
Okay, then. Well, listen here. You do your thing, Pastor Smith. I wish you nothing but the best in that. And
Mhm.
yeah. Do you have anything, Brandon, before we
Sure.
go?
I was praying before we got on this morning, and something we haven't really touched on yet. But this is a tough time for a lot of people. COVID-19 is real. People are dying. People have lost loved ones. It's a lot of hard work for these nurses and doctors out here, and just there's a lot of essential people who haven't had time off like you and I've had, Andre. There's people who've had to grieve losing their mothers and grandparents, and around graduation time. like students not being able to go to prom, or like it is a big change, and those things are things that people want to celebrate. Andre, you talked about having a party for your graduation, like and so I think
On Zoom,
right.
on Zoom. I gotta have it
Yes.
on Zoom
So
though.
on Zoom. And so
Hmm.
I think that, what the Lord showed me though is that somebody's going to watch this, who is in a moment of grief and despair, and that they be not troubled, and to reach out for God and really dig in. A lot of people have been given time. So a lot of people, are essential workers and they're working. But then there's a lot of people who have been given a lot of time, either from the military, or they receiving unemployment benefits, or they're not receiving unemployment and they lost their job. Well, if you don't have anywhere to turn, now is the perfect time to turn to Yahuwah for salvation, and to pray and to seek him, to really figure out and find out if he's true for you and yourself. Gino mentioned it earlier that we have to know the word of God, and we have to know God for ourselves, and we are advocates of having a personal relationship with Yahuwah outside of going to church. Church should just be, the little sprinkle that's on your week. It should just be something extra added in, but it shouldn't be the entirety of your relationship if you say you're a believer. Pray throughout the week, study throughout the week, and really dig in and connect to Jesus Christ, because we serve a personable God. He is personable. He does desire to have a relationship with you and want your time, and he'll give you your strategy. Earlier, we talked about having the ability to make healthy decisions, whether that be for your immune system, whether that be the time you spend outside, or when you should go to the grocery store, or what you should buy, or those kind of things. Like, God wants to deal with every part of your life. He is the best way to describe him is he's the greatest father that you could ever have, with all of the greatest attributes. He has wisdom, he has guidance. He'll scold you, but he'll love you, and he'll correct you, and he'll set you on the path that you should go. So I just wanted to encourage, the people, and let you know that God is not asleep. He is not slumbering. He knows what you're going through, and he desires for you to turn to him. In crisis, he's near the brokenhearted. It's us who think he's far away and, oh God, why is this happening to me? But actually, if we would just turn to him, he's near us. Amen. Okay, from yeah.
Amen on that. I love it. I loved it. And it just goes back to us emphasizing to you all that we are our own temple, and we can seek God for ourselves from the confines of our home. And I'm doing that every
Amen.
single day. I'm doing it every single day. It does not have to necessarily be on Sunday, okay? It could be every day. So on that note, this completes our
Yeah.
episode discussion. I appreciate you all
Thank you.
joining in and chatting and giving us different perspectives to look at. These topics are I think have been beneficial. We're going to continue to dive deep in the future on topics that can resonate with you all,
Yeah.
because I feel that as time moves on, knowledge is power. And I think that with the knowledge that we get on different things, or the things that we're abreast of, I think it can just cause us to just elevate in life as Americans. As Americans. Um,
Mhm.
Pastor Smith said, as soon as this is over, I'm gonna come fellowship with y'all at Fellowship Chicago. I love ministry. So we're not in Chicago. So I am in Kentucky, and Brandon is in Washington State. But I'm putting his business out there. He will be in
Yeah.
Maryland soon. So him and I will be a little bit closer together, but we're not in the same
Mhm.
area. We're totally far. We're 3 hour time
Right.
difference right now. So it's 4 o'clock for me and 1 o'clock for him. So but I'm definitely down to, once COVID-19 gets its act
Yeah.
together. I definitely would love to fellowship in
Mhm.
Chicago, to see Pastor Sharp. I wouldn't mind seeing Pastor
Yeah.
Sharp. So, but once again, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. We should be back next Sunday for another good talk with
Yeah.
you all. If it does go earlier, then we'll let you know. Because me and Brandon have talked about not going every single Sunday, but most Sundays we will be on here. But if we go on another, or on a, in the middle of the week, and you see us live, tune in, because we have some good topics that we cover, and the more the merrier. So y'all have a great
Be
one,
blessed.
and we'll see you guys
All right.
soon.
Be blessed. See you later, Andre.
Bye. Bye, Brandon.